So I think we're just going to turn it over to you, Maggie.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. This has been so lovely to watch you guys work, and it's so fun to just piggyback off of all the other teachers that I've just taught before the last few weeks. So I'm excited to work with you today. I thought we could start off with a little more of an energizing, fun exercise. It's I think of this as kind of a vocal massage. It's also, and also, can I just find out, because I haven't met all of you, who actually teaches voice? Like, because there are some practitioners, right? Okay. And then who feels like really and the rest of you are very experienced, right? I mean, if I said like intoning, some of you know, you understand what I mean by that, right? I'm talking to like, yeah, okay. I just want to kind of get a gauge of the land. Thank you. So it's kind of an intoning exercise, but I feel like I've taken it into a very helpful exercise that helps me before I go into a tremor. So I use it as kind of like a little foreplay for my tremor. Okay, if I may say so. No, I'm just kidding. But so it's I think of it as like a vocal massage. I also visualize it as kind of a watercoloring exercise. So for me, the image of watercolor, if I take a, you obviously it's second grade, but or 2 years old, you take a paintbrush and some watercolor and put it on a piece of paper, and then it kind of rips into other areas. So I kind of think of my voice when I'm doing the exercise we're about to do. Think of it as like I'm not sure where it's going to end and where it's going to start when I put that color on the paper. And I want to sort of allow that experience to be organic in a way where I'm not going to place my voice anywhere. I'm just going to drop it in and see where it kind of travels the way watercolor paint would on a white piece of paper. So we're kind of warm up the spine, give that a go, and then we're gonna do a little bit of a releasing exercise, and then we'll go into a few different tremor efforts so that we can see how that affects the tremor work. Okay, so we're gonna start in a crouch position, which is your child's pose for those that use both terms. So I like to start here just to kind of, and please, actually, can I just have a look? Can I do one little test first? Can you hear me like this? And can you hear me like this? Hi, 1, 2, testing.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And you can see me, right? Does it need to okay. So I like crouch because here I feel like I can, and I do it with my knees spread open. And I like to untuck my feet, right? But you could, I guess, do this. And some of us need a pillow between our sits bones and our heels. So find that for yourself. And I like to use this opportunity to just like actually drape my shoulders. And then just drop into gravity and just check in with wherever I am in the present moment. So I'm also, I should say, this work and this exercise for me right now is really about being where I am in the moment and trying not to, just trying to figure out, just trying to be curious, trying to bring more curiosity into my body. So I'm finding that release, and I as effortlessly as I can say a little HUH or a fluffy sound. And then I'm actually going to start on a hum of an M. So even though I'm going to close my lips here, I'm still going to allow myself to release my lips and take another breath through my mouth as I continue. For me, it doesn't work to have this be a nose breath, for me to work through breathing through my nose. So figure that out for yourself, what the difference is if you continue as we go along, if you breathe through your nose or breathe through your mouth. I like to breathe through my mouth. So I really release my jaw. And then that kind of releases my hips. Maybe that's true for you. Maybe something else gets released. And then I close my lips around my released jaw. And I just start a little hum very gently. And wherever that is, it is. It's like so it's like watercolor. And then I bring that up into a healthy cow cat exercise, just curious, spontaneous, or not really spontaneous, but curious exploration of the spine. And I'm looking for areas in the body where my sound seems to be massaging or vibrating. I'm trying to feel it, not listen for it, but feel it and experience it. And as I'm experiencing the vibration, I see where if I can, on the next breath in, maybe let that sound spread, right? Just a little bit to the right, or a little bit to the left, or a little bit to the front of my body, or a little bit to the back of the body, using the spine. To help access those bones, right? Because I want to massage my bones. I want to feel like my voice. I want to try to experience my voice on a vibrational massaging level against maybe the inner walls of my rib cage, my sternum, maybe the back of the actual vertebra themselves. And I start to swirl it around. Maybe watercolor is, maybe it's a swirled ice cream. Really releasing the jaw. So the jaw is released as the lips are over that. And really making sure the belly is so released, even all the way down to your thighs. So I really like to think through the hip sockets, releasing all those abdominal muscles. And letting maybe shifting ever so slightly the pitch of your voice to find and access new bones, maybe even in your skull. And super light, super easy. There's no projecting here. It's really an internal massaging. Feeling the ribs, maybe, and then we can start to side those ribs more, maybe a little bit, bringing the right ear to the right hip and the other way. Continuing your watercoloring or swirling of your inner massage sounds. And now, and then maybe come back to a crouch and feel that rest, feel gravity. Release. And this time we're gonna do the same thing on an ah. And I'm really curious what happens if you can let this watercoloring go through your throat. What sounds maybe around the larynx and in that area. So you can go back and forth between your M and your ah, but I'm much more curious about the ah right now. And I think of this as a casting into organs, a casting into body parts rather than a projection out of. So it still has that internal massaging of the inner body. And I can come back into to healthy cow. Using my spine to find another body part. So my body is taking my voice somewhere. I'm not thinking of moving my voice. I'm moving my body, and my voice moves as a result. Allowing all sounds to emerge. Maybe they're creaky, maybe they're breathy, maybe they're painful, maybe they're emotional, vulnerable, different pitches. And then you can come back to your crouch or continue with that in your crouch, or continue, and I will take it off of you as to when we move on. So I'm gonna let you play with that for a little longer. And I do also think of this a little bit as an onion peel. So there's layers here that think of how kind of easy you can be with it, and find that release before you sound. Finding the release before you sound. Experiencing your body before you sound, so that your sound is maybe under a layer of something you might be holding. And maybe the voice can open that layer, or maybe the body is opening that layer. Or maybe that just moment of letting go just before you sound is opening that layer, connecting you. And then coming back into crouch and just sitting with yourself here, and maybe having a new experience with your skin. Maybe there is maybe the vibrations we just experienced have maybe woken you up a little bit inside. And you will, and then I invite you to come on your back, rolling over onto your back once you're done with that. So whether your legs are long or your feet are standing, I like to have my feet standing because it supports my back, and I do have some back stuff. So I prefer, this actually helps me release more than letting both my legs go. I like sometimes letting one leg go down. Actually, always I like letting one leg go down and then the next. But both legs down for me sometimes pull my back down. So just notice that for yourself. Play with that. Play with if it gives you, if it allows you to have more space in your back, to have your legs standing, to have them both released, or one leg down, one leg up. Give that to yourself. So here I'd like to draw your attention to your shoulder blades to start off with. And see if you can, and actually for starters, close your eyes so that this work can be a little more about you today, or at least at the beginning of this day. And I want you to visualize your shoulder blades and visualize them dangling off of the back of your rib cage. Just letting them go, letting them dangle into gravity. And as they dangle down off of your shoulder blades, they also widen, so that you have this really expansive back, wider than you might normally experience your back. See if you can experience your back around your shoulder blades just a little wider. And notice what that does to your spine between your shoulder blades. And now I want you to find the little bony parts on the back of your skull. So they're your occiput bones. And see if you can just gently nod your head yes. Super, super, like I call them like mini alphabet soup, like super, super, super tiny movements. So that you can feel your throat opening a bit or closing too much, right? So we don't want our chin so close to our chest right now. I think we want to see what happens. I mean, you can decide for yourself, but I like to have a little more space, right, for that alignment. So I want to see if I can balance on those little bones. And that kind of gives you the top of your spine. And then here, with your wide back, roll your head to your left, letting the weight of your head roll off of your neck. Nice and slow. There's a great exercise where we cradle our heads with each other. So I would cradle your head, I'd put your head in my hands, and I would rock your head right to left. Maybe that doesn't sound appealing, but if it does, imagine that someone, either me or someone you know and trust, has your head in their hands, and see if you can just imagine your head getting cradled right now and releasing all the way to the left, giving your head up to gravity. And if this does anything to your eyes, maybe your eyelids start to, something happens, let any kind of shaking or any kind of change, something that might be bubbling, occur. And then let your head go to the other side. Again, let your head release in these hands, these trusted hands. Slowly, slowly turning your head to now your right. Releasing your head off your neck. Releasing your jaw. Releasing the tongue off the roof of your mouth. And then coming back to, and then letting that go. And coming back to center, super slow. Maybe you touch this, maybe there's a sound that wants to come out of this. And before we start our first tremor, I'm going to invite you to grab your legs or take hold of your legs and just rotate your legs one at a time in your hip sockets so that you feel really spacious in your pelvis, and that each hip socket feels really wide and open. So imagine that fallen socket joint in your pelvis. And as you rotate this, imagine all the muscles that are connecting your leg to your pelvis, just sort of unwinding and unraveling. Make sure you do both legs, do one leg at a time or two together. And now when you found that, put your feet to stand, and we will begin with the watch. So I typically just like to give myself a little bit of space. So I pick up my sacrum and scooch it just a little bit to the right before letting my knees drop to the left. But, do your thing with that. It's just an extra tip if that helps. And then I want to, before I even move, really check into the side of my body that's even along the floor. Because sometimes we can grip in all these different areas. So I'm going to just remind myself to let go wherever where I feel maybe I'm resisting gravity a little bit. And then I'm going to let the top leg come up, and I'm going to try to use my arm. Julie said something great. She said, put the weight of your legs in your arm, or the weight of your back in your arms. I forget how she said it. She said it great. But it's that idea of taking the weight of your leg into your hand and really letting go of your leg so that you're not supporting your leg right now with your hip or your back, but your arm is taking hold of that weight. And then just point and flex your foot and see if you can do that without gripping in your hip and both hips. And then so the toes are going to come towards your knee in a flexed position. And then you're going to let your heel, I want you to think through your heel, if that helps, and start to extend through your heel. As you extend through your heel, try not to extend through your hip yet. Maybe there's a little extension there, but see if you can initiate really from your heel coming out of your knee. See what happens if you do that ever so slightly. Just play with that. Play with that extension. And also, as you're extending here, see if you can really find release in the inner thigh. So release that again. Let that go. Make sure that you're not gripping in the inner thigh, which then connects up into the inner hip, like basically your pelvic floor area. So see if you can keep that released as you extend the heel out through the knee. Maybe put a hand on your lower belly. If you want to turn your head to the right, feel free to do that. If not, keep your head straight up or just balanced. And you can soften your belly here. And start to allow a little tremor to run up your leg and maybe run up through your pelvic floor into your belly. And I think of this as I think Catherine used this terminology a while ago, as a popcorn breath. So there's this chaotic popcorning of your breath. And before, you don't even have to make sound at this point. Just see if you can experience the inhalation or the exhalation. And then maybe some sounds start to connect and hop on the wave of these breaths. Maybe you want to release. Maybe you want to get back into it. Maybe that was enough and you need a rest. If you're still in it, I'm going to encourage you at this moment just to have your sounds be short in connection to the popcorn, as opposed to pressing your voice through all of the chaos. See if you can let your voice be just as chaotic. And maybe, again, you start to let these sounds start to travel all over your body into different bones. And then release that. Coming into a rest, maybe on your side, so we can really curl the spine. And here's a nice time to either keep your eyes closed and stay with what you're experiencing, and just, I like to say, leave yourself alone. Let what's there be, whether it's comfortable or not. Sit in what your experience is. allow it to be, allow it, right? Give yourself permission to have the experience that you're having without judgment. And if it's of interest to you, I also sometimes like to just gently open my eyes here, because for me, bringing a little bit of the room in and out of my work does help. So I just keep my eyes soft and I let what I see come to me rather than reach for it. But it's an option at this point to open your eyes and then close them again. And it's again another kind of sandwich in a way. So we'll go back on let's roll back on your back and prep yourself for the right side, whether that means you lift your pelvis slightly and then bring your knees over, or however you get there. And I will, maybe I didn't say this and people need it, but just a reminder that some people use a zafu, right, between your knees for this. And some people need your leg, it might be really helpful for you to bring your leg really quite high up. As long as you're keeping the weight of your leg in your hand and you're not using your back, I don't see, for me, that still constitutes, it's still a diagonal watch position. So again, I'm going to check in with the hip here and really make sure that I'm not gripping in the inner thigh, and to really try to release that. Then I'm going to flex my toe, and I invite you to inflex your toe and extend your heel. Maybe you close your eyes at this point, release your jaw, and then extend your heel out of your knee. And allow, so slow, you're working so slow. There's no end game here. The most important thing in this is that you're releasing as you're working, that you're not creating extra tension. So as you let go, maybe even you start to fall asleep, something might start to happen. Really letting that leg go and giving yourself some time. Maybe you come out of it, or maybe you just keep letting your leg fall, the weight of your leg go, your inner thigh release. And then before you sound, sorry to skip, just focus on what's happening to your breath. What's happening to that inhale? What happens to the exhale? Releasing your head away from your foot, if that's helpful. Letting go of your head. Maybe someone takes your head here. Maybe you feel those hands cradling your head off of your neck. And allowing anything to come up here. Letting your sounds just touch to your chaos, just like the popcorn is it's just a short expression, a short connection of sound to breath. And maybe starts to get a variety in your body, because it starts to go through your skull. And back down. And then release that and curl all the way over to your right. And if anyone has any questions at any time, if you choose to unmute and just stop me. I like that. I kind of need that. I need to know where you are. So I don't need to be on autopilot here to take care of you. So if you need support from any of us, please do that. I think I'm going to do one. Can I do one more tremor? I'll do a little bit. Do we have time for one more? Perfect. So just sit here and maybe you play with whether your eyes are closed or open and what you're taking in and what that does to the experience of your skin, what's happening to your breath. What are you allowing? What's there? What's there to allow? And then I invite you to roll back on your back. But actually, if you know where your Zafu is and you want to grab it, we're going to do, I guess we'll do the wave next. But I will show you how to do it a little bit with a Zafu helper. I like to do it. I don't remember if we did that as a group yet, but I do it with a Zafu. Or a pillow. And obviously you need to take care of yourself. So whatever you're feeling like doing, if you don't want to do the wave, do a different pose, a different, I have old language, do a different effort. So here, I'm going to take my pelvis and push it up a bit, right? So I am in that, but I'm going to give I like to just have I like to almost put the Zafu just higher up like that. So the difference between the seaweed, which is under the pelvis, I kind of put this a little bit more on the bottom of my ribs, because then I can really release. And then I know I'm not, and if this isn't high enough, and you're strong, give yourself some elbows. But I do want to emphasize that bringing yourself into a full kind of yoga plow is not what we're doing. This wave is really about keeping the throat open and not coming over into, you're not bringing your chin to your chest, right? So we want to keep that space available. So for me, this works. So you can push yourself up as high as you can go, but I like it this way. And then I can really release my back onto the Zafu, or if I have more pillows under me, that works too. So here, I'm going to, again, windshield wiper my thighs together and open, just always revisiting those open hips that I want to maintain as I get into this tremor. Another way to think of it is a released back. But for me, I don't know about you, if my hips are tight, my back is tight. So I just open up the thighs. Open up the hips. Release the back. And really try to surrender into gravity as much as I can here. Flexing the toes towards your knees. You're going to bring your heels over your head. So your toes are towards your knees. As you do that, keep releasing your inner thighs and let your heels come over to the back wall. I start to feel at this point, maybe I want to give myself a little extra, so I'll push myself up a little bit, but at least getting on the Zafu kind of gave my back a memory of, hey, let go. So as I release my heels out of my knees, and I keep reminding my hips, my thighs to release, I keep allowing my thighs to release out of my hips, I revisit the maybe you're curious about your exhale this time first. As you keep slowly extending your heels to the back wall, maybe something's starting to happen and travel up your legs, Maybe it travels through, and you can spread your legs a bit here too, actually. Widen, bring them closer or bring them apart, see what helps. But keep letting your lower back fall into your arms. Extending the heels. Releasing the spot, your vertebra between your shoulder blades, so those wide shoulder blades. And then get your sound maybe wants to start to play with this breath that's starting to happen. Releasing your jaws a lot. Letting your inhale be just as chaotic and popcorny. And come out of that when you need to, or stay in it and play between just breath, just the inhale, just the exhale, or all those delicious sounds that want to just jump from like pinball throughout your body, through your skull, your pelvis, where does your sound want to jump around to? And then coming out of that when you're ready, truly no rush, just reminding you to have that permission. Find a resting pose where you can just experience yourself where you are now, your breath, your skin, your heartbeat. Maybe your sense of smell. And maybe you check your eyesight a little bit just by peeking just so gently, so easily. Maybe you want to see what's out there. And you can close your eyes again if that's just too much. Do what's right. You don't have to do anything. The only thing I want you to do is listen to where you are now and follow what feels right for you. So start to give your body permission to have whatever experiences it may or may not be having. Experiences it may be having. And we'll just do one more effort before I think we're going to talk about it. And we'll do seaweed. So if you're resting on yours, if you can put now you're going to put your zafu just under your pelvis. So there's just a slight lift. And again, check the legs and the release of the thighs. Sometimes just like folding in just these moments. I don't know. Sometimes I imagine the light in my room like the sun, and I just let it warm my skin, and I let my body just fall into gravity. The image of a beach sometimes comes up in our work, and it's like let your body just be inside the sand. And just check around the lower abdominal area here, just sitting here for a second, taking the time to really allow yourself to release your hips and release that abdominal, lower abdominal muscles and back muscles. And with your hands on your thighs, you're going to just point and flex your feet. Release your jaw. Release your shoulders. Find your wide back. Find your bony occipits. And let your heels start to extend out of your knees so slowly. You don't have to move your thighs. Let your thighs come along for the ride. So once your heels start to really extend, maybe your thighs start to follow a bit. Keep releasing your shoulders, arms, and what's happening to your exhale? What's happening to your inhale? And then where does your voice, where does the sound want to start to happen? What do you want to express here? What sounds want to emerge? Letting this potential tremor really go through your hip sockets, releasing your inner thighs, releasing your abdominal muscles, and then letting different pitches come out, different swirls of sound, right? And maybe there's extensions, maybe there's more elongated sounds this time. But keeping the belly soft. Maybe one leg at a time starts to just happen. And then maybe the other leg alone. And then playing with an unsymmetrical kind of tremor, or backing out of it and going back in. But really not, and if you're just staying with your breath and no voice, that's okay too. Again, as Jeff said, we really start with the breath. Yeah, keep releasing that belly, Terrence. Keep releasing your abdominal muscles. Yes, let it come through you, from your legs, traveling through you. Releasing the shoulders. And then when you're ready to come out of that, find a resting position. And then allowing whatever's coming up for you to come up with. I have to tell you, even if you're not actually efforting right now and tremors maybe aren't happening, just sitting and releasing the weight of your body and your bones, giving your bones into gravity, might be enough for you today. And what is that doing to your breath? What's that doing to the experience you're having in your body? Okay, so I think you can just take another moment to rest, and I'm going to kind of pass it off to Jeff, but you guys rest.
Thank you, Maggie. That was really lovely. So I think we're going to, before we do the rest of what you have to offer us today, we're going to slide into breakout rooms to discuss a little bit. And so I'm looking to Amy now to see how we're doing or where we are at in terms of setting those up.
How many do you want?
I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because Rachel, you said that I think today you're just observing, right? You're not going to be involved in facilitating today. So I think there's
5 rooms.
5 rooms. So however that
Great.
pans out.
Exactly.
Do I have that right? Jeremy, Souffle, me, Maggie, and Beth.
Lovely.
Yeah.
22.
And Lisa, do you want me to do one?
Oh yeah, and Lisa. So we could do 6. So they could. Sorry.
That'll spread people pretty thin. I'm gonna do just 5 rooms, and we'll double up. Um,
Double up teachers.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go take care of something then. Um, uh, Amy, what time are you leaving?
I'll check. We'll check off this meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Just a second.
I'm just gonna turn something off in my house that's making sound.
Okay. Well, I think this is actually, as Amy's getting this sorted, this is actually a nice moment for everybody to transition back into the, I don't even know what world we're in, but we were in a different world with Maggie.
All right. Um, all right. This should do it. We should have 3 participants per room and a teacher each. See you later, guys. How long, Jeff?
Um, I think what we've discovered is that 10 minutes is not long enough and that 15 minutes is okay, but I don't know. Maybe we should start checking in around 10 and see how people are doing.
All right. That's usually what I do anyway. Let's aim for 15.
Yeah, great. Okay.
See you all in your rooms.
Oh, so Amy, you put me in a room. Wait, I can't hear you. You're muted. Sorry, and we're still recording, just so you know.
Yeah, I did. I put you in a room. I hope you're feeling better, Rachel. I just wanted to let everybody know as they're coming back in the room, I have to leave early today, so Lisa Pelican's going to take over my job as porter, as facilitator. So if you have any questions or anything you need, please reach out to her. She'll be back in the next 20 minutes or so, and I'll just switch over hosting. She's bringing the sweet potato pie and bringing the corn chowder. No, I'm kidding. I was like, ooh, sweet potato pie.
Okay, so
Not everybody's back yet, Jeff.
not everybody's back. Okay, we'll wait for another.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Everybody's kind of wandering in. Yeah, actually, we're back. I lied.
We're back. Okay. So Maggie, I think we're back with you for another round until the break, right?
Sure. What time is the break?
The break we typically shoot for about 2 o'clock, so that's in about 45 minutes from now. So we can do another round of stuff, and if it's possible for you to leave a little time for discussion before 2 o'clock, that would be great.
Cool. So I'm kind of, can I ask them a question?
Of
I
course.
have a couple places we could go. Do you all feel like you want to go into text right now, or do you want to do more releasing? Like, would it be, I didn't hear all of your breakout conversations, and ours, it felt like we needed a little more releasing. But are people anxious to go to text? Like, are you feeling like you want to see how this works in text and you want to go there? Sue Faye.
This might help you decide. In our breakout room, we spent the last 5 minutes actually just talking about vibration in the tongue and throat and articulators, and so something about maybe release or awareness of here to perhaps go into text, speech, and or babble.
Oh, doing like, okay. No, I don't know if I could do that. I'm not sure I could think of something on the spot about that. All right, so
Maggie, I'm just tracking the nodding heads and what's happening in the text, and I think that in the chat, in the text in the chat, and it looks like people are enthusiastic about going into some more release and maybe following what Sufei was saying about adding, because today is really what you were doing with us. This is the first day that we've really been the invitation to sounding today, I guess, was pretty strong, I think, is what I'm saying, right? So I think that we can sort of look at that as like as a bridge into some work with text, which is, more, I think that sets us up well for what we discussed to do in the second half today.
Perfect. So should I think we should maybe just continue the sequence.
Yeah, let's do it.
We stopped at seaweed.
Mm-hmm.
Should go to, I have this. We should go, this order changed from yours when I first got it. I think from seaweed, we should go to hammock.
The order is fluid, according to Kat.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm try. For me, this is a lesson of learning the new sequence too. So I'm enjoying that.
It's explicitly not rigid.
It really is.
But
okay.
so Matt, so just to pick up on what Amy is saying, just to sort of, what's happening this is sort of for the group, like what's happening right now is that Maggie is actually kind of modeling what we're asking all of you to try to be present with, which is like, what do I actually want to do right now? What is the thing that will best serve my needs and the needs of the group, right? So I'm just sort of calling this out as saying, like, this is actually something that we try to do as Fitzmaurice teachers, right? One of the principles is to teach what's in front of you. And so that's what Maggie's trying to do. But again, just to remind you, Maggie, I think one of the reasons that Catherine says the sequence is fluid is because when we do it following the lead of different people, there's always some little detail to learn, right? So you should just trust your instincts and take us through it the way you want to do it.
You know what I want to do? I want to go back to seaweed because Terrence inspired me, Terrence and Wayne. And I want to take what they inspired me with and try to make sure everybody's getting this bit. So I think we should go back to seaweed and then jump to either hammock or butterfly. We might jump to butterfly unless there's like hammock lovers in the room. And then we can do a little hammock. But I'm not going to, maybe I won't do it this time so I can maybe look and help. Okay. Thank you, Beth. I love that. I love you, Beth. I'm like, I need all of you. I'm one of these people I tell my students, I'm like, do you see these reaction buttons here? Like, we need to be in the same room. So can you just like constantly react to what I'm saying?
Maggie?
Yeah.
So Jeremy and Jeff are both demonstrating currently.
Oh, awesome.
You can, you know, Beth may jump on the floor, although she's got a puppy. So you don't have to feel like you need to demonstrate and narrate.
Okay, cool. You're amazing, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah, just like Catherine would be in the room. She never gets on the floor.
No, I rarely do, but anyway. Zoom has changed. So I think we'll go to seaweed. So I would love to see everybody, if they're participating, go into seaweed. If you're not, I'm not gonna. But get your camera in a way where if you want to be adjusted, maybe I can adjust you. But also, maybe I won't try not to call out names, so don't worry about that. But just it'll help me say something. I'll say it maybe just in general as a, you know what I mean? Like I won't call your name out as a comment, but I'll, unless you want me to, I'll just sort of use what I'm seeing to help say the next thing. Okay, so when I was talking about releasing the hips, I'm really doing that not just to open up the hip sockets, but also to really soften the belly. So if you can take your hands, and I'm just going to stand up and demonstrate one thing, like right now, right where the fold is between the top of your thigh, right, and your abdominal wall. I just want to like point out that your abdominal wall goes all the way down to the tops of your thighs, that fold. And so put your hand right into that fold as a place to soften. So when you're thinking about, and not just that, when you think of your back, see if you can think of your back going all the way down to the back of the top of your thighs, right? So your back goes down to your sacrum. So incorporate your sacrum into the idea of releasing around your back. So you're much longer than maybe some of us kind of tend to identify and experience, right? Experience your whole self so that all that's incorporated. Okay, so then with that softening and then maybe windshield wiping your knees so that you feel your hips open, go for the flexing of the feet without moving your thighs. So you're not tensing your abdominal muscles or your lower back. And when I say lower back, I mean your sacrum, the area around your sacrum. So see if you can just point and flex your feet without any other tension adding up in your belly first. So then with that flexed foot, right, toes towards the knees, extend through your heel. And when I say extend, it's like, I'll just do a shout out here. I'll give a little credit to Beth McGuire. Beth McGuire always called it like Mission Impossible. So kicking through like a ceiling that's coming down on you. It's like you're stepping through your heels. It could also be, I could put my hands on your feet and press down a bit. So you feel like your feet are really engaging in stepping. And just try to extend your heels out of your knees. Don't move your thighs. And then as you're allowing anything to happen, right, a little bit of something might start to bubble in your legs. And so really extend those heels out of your knees, even more. Some of you need to really extend. Wiggle your fingers if you don't mind me saying your name. Okay, Jody, really extend your heels. Thank you. Really extend your heels out of your knees. Yeah, but when you do that, see if you can soften your hips one more time. Now kick out, flex your feet more, flex the toes more. More. Can you flex even more with your toes? There you go. Now, really let your attention be on your belly right now. So you're allowing your legs to do whatever they're going to do. But instead of your attention being on your legs, put your attention on the softening of your belly. And maybe something will start to travel up your legs. Maybe something will start to travel up the inner thighs of your legs. If you can really, really go towards letting go the inner thighs. I really like to try to travel whatever might be happening. And for me, I try to sometimes it starts super, super small. Like there's nothing big that needs to be happening right now. So I really recommend holding the thighs, because if you're extending your legs up in the air without really releasing those thighs, you're using your back muscles and your abdominal muscles. And then focus on your breath. So some of us might need to just extend our feet a little bit more, but not necessarily lift the thighs. Like bring your thigh back down a little bit more maybe, so that the release of your abdomen, because I'm telling you that the abdominal muscle release here is, in my opinion, key. Like if you're tightening your abdomen as a result, it's kind of, I think it's the, you don't want to compromise one for the other. You want to free your belly a little bit here. Cool. And then finding the sound after that. And I'll also try to, if you can remind your spine to let go, like could your spine drape inside of you right now a little bit? When we go to drapes later, but could your spine even just like hang inside of your body a bit more right now? So you feel the floor, right? You're really using the floor, and you're using gravity as a way to release. And then obviously you're coming out of this when you need to. I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah, exactly. Like one leg at a time. Like, why do you have to do both legs? Why can't you just slowly do one, like totally release that right leg, and then let that left leg just get curious? Be like, how little do you have to do muscularly to get this happening? Why does it have to be so strenuous, kind of thing? And then, of course, it can get more athletic once you feel like you have, like once you realize your belly is released, you can get more athletic with it. But I just think before you get athletic, soften that belly. And focus on the exhale if that's of interest to you. Okay, so I think, yeah, nice. Beautiful. Yeah, so if you're in it and your one leg is up right now, let that tremor go travel it. See if you can release in the hip so that it really goes up into your belly. It goes down your leg, down your inner thigh, all the way through your pelvic floor and up into your guts. Cool. Okay, let's come out. I think we can try another one, right? So we can rest. Some of you are into it, and if you're into it, just stay in it. Just keep exploring whatever you're exploring. I'm gonna go to the next one for others that may be ready. And before we go anywhere, let's do a well, actually, I think it's okay. Let's go to butterfly. I think, let's do hammock. Let's do hammock. Take a rest. I'm looking at all of you and deciding, because now I can see you. That's the difference. I'm actually looking at you. Yeah, so here on your back, what a great place to just let those shoulder blades be wide. Find your occiput. Just let your spine be, find the wholeness of your spine is the language I like to use. Just like, can you feel your whole self in this resting space? Can you try to be present with all of you? And allow whatever is there to be true. And you have permission to have any and all feelings or sensations or emotions or tension, discomforts or comforts. So now I like to feel my heels. So I'll bring my hands down towards my feet, and my heels I bring towards like my middle finger. And then stepping through your feet, right? So here's a great opportunity, right? This is a tricky one. I will do this one with you. So I'll guide you through it. You're going to step through your feet so that your knees start to shoot over your toes. You're going to send your knees over your toes. But if everybody just does that real quick, I want us to do it and squeeze your butt and squeeze your back and like squeeze your belly really tight. And even like let your thighs be really tight. Okay, that's the opposite of what I'm interested in. So, oops. So now come back down. And this time, as you step through your feet, first of all, try to let your shoulders not like grip as well. Step through your feet, let your knees go over your toes, send them, and do it with thinking through through more like the muscles on the outer muscles of your thighs, and release your butt. And just do that a couple times. Make sure that you can keep the efforting of what is lifting you in the outer edges of your thighs rather than the inner muscles of your thighs, right? So that's looser. Maybe a little bit of engagement happens, but try to have more of it on the outer edges. And then actually come on down again. I forgot to say, make your toes a little bit pigeon-toed, like bring your toes a little bit together so that when you bring your toes over there, you can also let your knees, like there's a magnet between your knees. One knee has one magnet, the other knee is the other, and they're being drawn together as you shoot your knees over your toes. So you're playing not all at once, one at a time. You're letting the energy, the weight step through your feet, knees shooting over your toes, and then your knees start to magnetically come together. And then keep lifting just a little bit. Sometimes getting up a little higher actually releases the back. Because once you're up a little higher, you can drape your spine here. So I think of hanging my spine. Once I have my feet, once I feel like I'm up here and I'm not gripping in my lower back or in my buttocks, I will release and try to ask my spine to hang. And then I might let my knees come over a little bit more over my toes and then hang my spine again. And then if something starts to happen, that might come up through the pelvis and up into the belly. And then you can touch to sound there. So that as you're working here, you're still really focused on not, your focus is less on your legs and more on releasing the belly. And releasing around the spine, releasing around the butt. So I find release when I think of letting my spine hang. I guess that's the way to say it. I find the release around in my butt. I find that release when I think of like just letting my spine hammock between the engagement of my legs and those muscles. So I engage the outer edges of my thighs. The knees come way more forward, Terrence. Bring those knees, shoot your knees even more. And now hang your spine. Let your spine really hammock. So you're not holding up your spine. Yeah, your spine could potentially fall to the ground. Does that make sense? So yeah, Jody, even more with the knees shooting up. So you can come up pretty high here and then there you go. Now dare to let your spine drop in between your legs and take a big breath. See what happens if we really take a big breath here. Yeah, keep asking your spine to dangle and release. And then maybe sounds start to happen here. Yeah, I think even more coming up yeah, oh, that was good actually. It's just hard to see. That's excellent. Softening the belly and really releasing your jaw. I have to say, releasing that jaw, thank you, Sue Fei, that's maybe where this comes in, is if the jaw is tight, something else is tight in the body, right? So really letting go of that jaw, I find, lets that big wave of breath also come in. So maybe more than you're used to, like play around with opening your jaw more than you're used to opening your jaw. Maybe like as much as a sandwich, you know what I mean? Like letting a sandwich come in your mouth. And then releasing that down. So and now when you release your spine down here and let your spine come into gravity, see what that's like. What does your back feel like now on the floor? And especially, what does your wholeness feel like? Do you have a longer back? Do you have more, is there more? And how could you, if you were to think about this, how can your voice maybe even come from there? How can you incorporate the experience of your lower back so that maybe your expression also can access that? And then here we're going to bring, you're going to take the soles of your feet and put them together. And play here with where the distance of your heels to your pelvic floor. So I don't believe in a one size fits all. Like for the tremor work, for finding all this stuff, it's all about your release. So if you feel more like you can let go by bringing your heels away from your pelvis, bring them a little further away. If you feel like bringing them in more gets you to release those hips, bring them in and just experiment with that. And then ever so slightly, we'll do that magnet image again. Give little magnets on your knees and slower than you've ever tried before. And my favorite is like as if you've never done this before and you're so curious, like a newborn baby just discovering their hand. Really getting curious about what would happen if you bring your knees so slowly together. And letting that back be supported by gravity and long. Keep maintaining that long back here as you do this. Be in your wholeness. Release your jaw more. Really open. Good. And hang out and see what there is with that. Maybe focusing on the exhalation still and the chaos of that, or the spontaneousness of it. Maybe it's surprising. What else can you let go of? Can you let go of your shoulders here? What happens if you let go of your shoulders? What happens if you let your head be cradled by those hands? Just cradling your head off of your neck, like someone's just gently, if you ever have a massage, or like just massaging your occipital joint, like getting up in that little crevice and pulling your head off your neck just a little bit, like tugging at it and giving yourself a little length in there. What happens if you let gravity do that? If you just give your head right into gravity. Softening your face, closing your eyes, and then playing with pitch here. Really, yeah. Okay. Cool. And I'm going to steal one more tremor before we discuss this stuff. So we'll come into a rest. I'm going to steal it. I'll do it quick. I'm going to steal it because I think we should go on our bellies real quick before we take a break. Because I think that if we can go to our bellies right now, when it comes to releasing, what a great place to get curious about the difference in how you release between laying on your back and laying on your belly. And the skill it takes to sometimes find that belly resting on your back, right? So here, letting your back just here on your belly, right? Or for some of us are not on our belly yet. Before we move, some of us stay on your belly if you are, but if you haven't yet, thinking about letting the front of your body fall into the back of your body. So it's just like, how can you let go? And then as you roll over onto your belly, I like to have one cheek, and then I switch like constantly. I'll just constantly turn my head and let my head, I have to like just look to the right and then look to the left pretty often, but just trying to find that ease of my head and neck. Instead of it being on my forehead, in other words, some of us are laying on our forehead. See if laying on your cheek gives you a little more release. This just occurred to me, so I'll just say it because what Sufei was mentioning, letting your tongue just rest maybe a little bit on your bottom lip here as you release your jaw. And then letting it ever, ever, ever so slightly come back down into your mouth. So it's like a little like, noticing what happens with your breath as you do that. You can do that a couple times, just breathing with your tongue on the bottom lip, on your bottom lip, and then super, super slowly letting it just come right back down into the floor of your mouth. And seeing what that does to your breath. Here's also a good chance to just check in with your feet and see if your toes are pointed to each other or further away or apart as a way of being comfortable, or the way Jeremy is also awesome. Just getting comfortable so that you feel like you can fall into gravity, right? And that word fall may be scary, but I kind of like it because it gives me it's kind of like, it's the challenge. So letting go into gravity, surrendering into gravity, or imagining you're actually falling into the floor where it's safe. Giving yourself that sensation can sometimes just take a little bit of that onion peel off and just let you just drop a little bit deeper into releasing. So I think, yeah, let's just do mermaid. We'll just do a little mermaid. So you're just gonna scrunch your, yes, your bottoms and release, and scrunch and release. Maybe scrunch your legs and release. And then bring your hands under your shoulders. Your forehead is on the floor here. And I loved what Beth said the other day, where she was like, you can bring your elbows out or your elbows in, or extend your hands, like put your hands honestly wherever it feels like you can release your shoulders, so that your shoulders aren't like up to your ears or uncomfortable. And what I like to do this super, super slow. So I will press into the floor. And as I'm pressing, I continuously remind myself to let go of my head and let go of my vertebra, each vertebra, because it's plural, the vertebrae between my shoulder blades. So I just let go of that vertebrae between my shoulder blades as I engage my triceps. So this is really it. The only thing that needs to be engaged right now are your triceps. Maybe someone's an expert and there's a couple other muscles in here, but I try to think of it as my triceps, and really letting my head release off of my, yeah, even let your head in the floor. Like, you don't have to take your head up off the floor. Your head can stay on the floor. Yes. And then really widen your fingers and press into your knuckles. Yes. And then make sure when you push into those triceps, you're not engaging your butt. When you push up now, instead of it being the exercise of pushing up, instead of thinking into it that way, think of it as you're pushing into your arms, but you're letting your spine fall. That's the word drape. The word drape is really saying, let your spine, is actually hammocking here. It's completely releasing. So I don't even, if you want to know the truth, I don't pick my head up off the floor when I do this pose. I'll just show you. I leave my head down and then I release. I do that whole scrunch and release. And then when I push up, I leave my head is the last thing to come up, because I automatically want to engage those muscles around my throat and my jaw if I start to lift my head. So I push up, and as I'm pushing into my hands, I have to release and push and release and push to figure out, well, hey, wait a minute, I'm still gripping, right? Like, okay, there we go. Release my head, engage, release my head. So I can tremor here without even lifting my head. And then if I do want to come up, which I'm going to do right now, I'm still letting my head and my spine hang. And now the trick is to let that tremor begin in the arms and travel through your shoulders. So try it without picking up your head, and then start to get your head off. And once your body understands that it's going to hang your head, you're going to hang the vertebrae between your shoulder blades. So you really push quite hard. It is like a push-up. There's a lot of engagement in the arms. And then let the breath change. So how does the breath change? And really release your lower back and butt. Yeah. Yeah, my pelvis stays on the floor the whole time, and I really feel the width of my pelvic bones. I let myself almost feel like they're wide. There's a width there that I'm connecting to with gravity. So I'm really releasing my lower back. And the front of my pelvis is supported. And my thighs feel supported and wide on the ground. And I'm releasing my jaw. You can release your jaw, and your tongue can kind of hang out a little bit too. Yeah, and just encourage you not to come up as high right away if you're still gripping. Like to really make sure you're not gripping before you go up as high. And I do think going up high is great. I'm just saying check in to make sure that the gripping isn't happening before you fully go up. There you go. And then we can just sit back in a crouch and have a moment of rest, and then seeing if there's maybe a new, I guess the question is there a new release? What did you feel like you were able to focus more on releasing your belly and releasing your back that round than trying to go into the effort? I guess that's the question I would have. And I would have the last question I have is just still like getting curious with taking the release that maybe you're finding on your belly as you lay on the front of your body. Can you take that kind of release onto your back? Trying to like play with that sandwich effect as well. Beautiful. I'll just say this because I see it. Yeah, keep falling. Like, where can you fall more? And I'm going to turn this over to Jeff now.
Thanks, Maggie. That was, I really want to appreciate the detail that you were bringing. I learned a lot, I have to say. I learned a lot from you right now. So I'm looking at the boxes that are on. And it looks like we're in some kind of, yeah, there's a lot of rest and digest happening and some slow transitions and some people that are sitting up and things like that. So we're about to move into a break, but I want to offer the opportunity for questions or anything that anyone wants to share about the experience that we had with Maggie, and I think that sometimes I've been thinking about a little bit about what that actually means, right? To sort of share, right? And there's this little bit of it that's a little bit like, I don't know, when you say the word, it sometimes goes back to kindergarten, it's like, let's all share what's going on. But I actually think it's kind of a normalizing experience sometimes, right? That it's not about demonstrating what you're understanding, but sometimes simply articulating what it was that you experienced not only grounds it for you a little bit more, but can sometimes illuminate things for other people, or it just kind of normalizes these kinds of experiences for the whole group. And I think that can be really useful. However, it's also possible that nobody feels the need to say anything right now. So I'm just going to let the silence hang for a couple of minutes and see if anybody wants to chime in with a question or a comment or a report. I love that, Sufei, the sharing of your harvest. Yeah. So, like, what did you harvest in this hour and a half with Maggie today? Yeah, Matthew.
I was very delighted with the effect of visualizing the image of the spine as a hammock, because when I allowed my spine to come back to the floor, whether it was when I was lying on my back or when I was lying on my front, I was very easily able to visualize the separation of each individual spinal vertebra in a way that generally I find difficult. So it was very interesting but pleasurable as well to feel that separation, especially of the lower vertebrae and the vertebra in the spine, individually happening as they came down to the floor, almost in a way I hadn't done before. So thank you for that, Maggie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, Maggie, your constant reminders, at least for me, I was like, oh, I forgot about my head. Oh, I forgot about this part of my body. And I'm used to, I think, having done this for so long, thinking that like all that stuff is fine. Like I'm used to thinking like I don't it's released. I know what I'm doing. But the constant reminders, I think, were really useful and lovely. Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Yusuf.
Something I wanted to share is in that last position, I was it's incredibly frustrating for me to believe that there is ease in a position so difficult as that, but there is somewhere. And in that position, I am ever since I realized how isolated the triceps can be, I find it to be frustrating and invigorating at the same time because in my engagement, disengagement, and re-engagement, I find more power, I find more energy, and my breath really does begin to take on a life that I can't really control, but is really reflective of the intense energy in my body. And so my brain wants to like modulate all that shit. Oh, excuse me. I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss, but my brain wants to modulate all of those things to kind of cool it off. And I re-engaged like 3 times in order to allow that to continue to happen. And that was really refreshing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Yeah, I as I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing, based on what Maggie did, I'm like revising my whole plan, but I just want to again, we didn't issue a reminder this morning about autonomy and engaging and disengaging and re-engaging and choice and all of that stuff. So thank you, Yusuf, for bringing that back into the conversation, right? Like that's a crucial piece of this, is that as Maggie or anybody is leading you through these things, if you're present with the sensations in your body and you give yourself permission to disengage when I don't know why, for whatever reason, right? But simply giving yourself the permission to disengage and then looking and being curious about that moment. If and when you want to re-engage, it uh, it has an effect on the quality of what's going on. And I think, like you're saying, Yusuf, your there's a lot of stuff that's going on neurologically, I think, in which like your body's like, this is new information. There's a lot happening here. And there can be a tendency to try to mediate that or control it or try to understand it or instead of experiencing it. And I think what you're talking about, Yusuf, of saying like, okay, whew, I need to step out and then step in and step out and step in. It's lovely. Yeah, it's great. Anything else? Hmm.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Yusuf said in terms of using the voice, that I found myself giving myself permission to, when I noticed that I wasn't sounding, I was kind of like, oh, you should be sounding. And I went, no, stop that. So giving myself permission to find where I might be holding back the sound, whether it's psychological or physical in my body. It was like, okay, just feel it. So it to me, it physically and psychologically feels like there's all these components that I've learned throughout my life as a singer and breath worker, that it's just like they're all now starting to come together. So the pieces are almost folding in together versus isolation.
Love that.
Affection is one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Anyone else? Linda?
Yeah, I always have a very soft belly and I know how to work the basic abdomen muscles, but I was aware this time of a holding so deep and it was different from the in breath to the out breath. And I was actually fighting to try and keep it relaxed. So then I had another tension going on as I was fighting to keep those muscles really relaxed, which I'd never experienced before. And then I was aware of having to almost push my breath to get those muscles to relax. It was a weird experience that was going on. It was like a balance between the breath, the tension, but they were really, really tiny, deep muscles that I don't think I've really been aware of before. So that was a huge eye-opener for me. It was brilliant. Really
Love
great.
that.
Yeah.
Love that. I feel like this is one of those moments that if Catherine were here, she would have something like really brilliant to say to relate and connect that to something else and make sense of it. I don't have one, but I think that's lovely. Yeah. Anyone else? I'm checking. I have 2 pages of people here, so I'm just double checking to make sure. Okay, so I think we're gonna take. This seems like the moment to me. So I think we'll take 15 minutes, um, and that'll bring us back at 2:20. So thank you so much, and thank you again, Maggie. It was great, and we'll reconvene in 15 minutes. Okay. So, what I would like to do with everyone this afternoon uh, i- is continue, I think, from where we landed with Maggie, and begin to add a little bit more. I'm very cautious about sort of articulating what the plan is or sort of describing what the frame is, but I think it can be useful sometimes. Um, what I'd like to play with is adding a little bit more sound and starting to get into the what goes on in your mouth with sound, and maybe by the time we're done today, we might actually be speaking some words or speaking some text. But the thing that I want to emphasize is that one of the things that we're trying to do, which is I think at least in in my experience, is one of the unique pieces of Fitzmaurice Voicework, is that we're trying to bring all of those sensations and bits and pieces of awareness with us as we begin to move into things that have a little bit more structure or have a little bit more intention. And I think that some of what we were hearing right before the break from Yusuf and Linda, talking about like your brain wanting to get involved and sort of take control and sort of do it a particular way. Or Linda, you were saying like you have all of these pieces from a lifetime of being a voice user and a breath worker. You know, sometimes, and what you were describing was it sounded like they were integrating, which is lovely. But sometimes when we start engaging with words, this whole other program starts to take over. And so the question is, what happens? The curiosity is, what happens if you allow the kinds of sensations and all of this stuff about release and feeling in your body and the feeling of breath? What happens to sound and speech sounds and words and text when all of those pieces uh, are the engine, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? Those pieces are the things that are guiding you towards whatever it is that ends up happening with the words in the text, rather than the plan that you have, or rather than what you think the words mean. Um, and I don't think I want to say any more than that. I don't want to get too cerebral or too intellectual about it, but I just kind of wanted to let you know a little bit uh, about where we're going. So, and the reminder also is to come in and come out and come in and come out in ways that would that feel good to you. So we're going to back into some go back into some tremoring. So the invitation is to come back down onto the floor. But the first thing, you can find your way back down there. And I would like to invite you to pick one. Pick one of the dynamic efforts. Pick the one that is either reliably successful for you, or pick the one that feels good when you do it. You can also pick one that is challenging or interesting to you for whatever that might mean to you. Like Linda Slade was talking about the experience that she had of some very interesting, unusual new sensations, right? So it's kind of like, what would you like to explore right now as we're going into this? Do you want to explore comfort? Do you want to be a little adventurous? Is there something that you want to figure out? So this first one that we're going to do, this is, Tremorer's choice, I guess. So once you are as you are getting yourself oriented in terms of whichever one you're going to do, I'm doing the open book, I guess. This could also be seaweed. This is pretty close also to the wave. You may want to do the watch or the hammock. What are the ones that we've done today? The mermaid. I would like you to begin by putting yourself in a position where it's as if your body is sort of prepared to go into the dynamic effort, but you haven't gone into it yet. So you may have your pelvis propped up. You may be over on your side with your knees separated by pillows or a zafu. You may be on your belly with your hands underneath your shoulders. But before you flex your foot, I would like you to Be with your breath. And as the breath enters and leaves your body, there will be places in your body where it feels that the breath moves easily into that place. That the shape change in your ribs and your abdomen, or maybe it's just one side of your ribs or part of your abdomen, or possibly the breath is traveling into your back. But there are places, depending on the position you are in, where the body moves freely and easily on the inhale. And then on the exhale, let yourself release fully in that place. There may be places where you feel like you don't have access to the physical sensations of movement that go along with breath. And that's okay. These different positions encourage different kinds of movements and different kinds of sensation. That's what Maggie was doing in such a lovely way with us in the first half. She was really zeroing in on these specific places. So for a couple more cycles of breath, when you breathe in, where is the movement? And can you allow yourself to fully enjoy that movement, whatever it may be? And then on the out breath, where is the movement there? And can you allow yourself to fully enjoy the release? And then when you're ready, flex your feet at the ankles and then do one more breath. Or maybe a couple more breaths into the parts of your body that are open and free and have a lot of movement. Can those places remain open and free and mobile after you flex your feet at the ankle? And then very, very slowly begin to move. The way that I say it is move your heels away from your butt. But I really love what Maggie was saying also about thinking about, I guess the way that I think about it is very often about the position of the limbs in space, the position of the different parts of the limbs in space. So as you are moving your heel away from your butt or extending your leg, another way to think about it is, oh, if you're in mermaid, you're going to be pressing your hands down into the floor, but it's a similar kind of thing, right? There's certain joints where you're opening the angles and other ones where you're not. But while you're in the tremor right now, can you continue to enjoy the way that your body moves in the places that it can move when you breathe in? And then fully enjoy the release in your body in those places. And I would like to encourage you, and again, this is optional as always, on that release. As I'm kind of modeling right now, let some sound accompany that movement in your body. And you may want to keep going But you can also come down here. You can come down in a way that you're propped up on your pillows. You can come down all the way down onto the floor. But for a couple of breaths, what I would like you to do is, once you come down from the tremor, can you continue to enjoy the feelings that you get in your body of where the opening, where the expansion wants to happen? And enjoy the release. And is it possible for you to couple the release with some sound? And then this is one of the things that we're going to explore as we're going through this. There's a moment when the way your body wants to move immediately following the tremor, it begins to change, right? The way that you were breathing when you came down from the tremor, it has a certain, often has a certain set of qualities of fluidity, things about maybe the breath feeling deep, or the movements might be large, or they might be rapid. And then that begins to subside after you've come down from the tremor. So I'm watching people's work. This is great. Some people are still in it. Some people are still doing it. Some people have come down. So what I would like to invite everyone to do for the next minute or so is basically what it seems like a lot of people are doing right now on their own. So I invite you to spend some time playing with the playing with various dynamic efforts. You can play with the same one over and over again. You can switch from position to position. And I am, and a little bit later, in terms of what we're doing, I am going to invite people to do the same thing at the same time. So if you're craving that and craving a little more direct instruction, that's coming up. But for right now, the invitation is to play with various dynamic efforts, but with the invitation to notice the moment before you begin the extension of the limbs, to notice where you experience the physical movements of breath in your body, and to fully enjoy that on the in-breath, and to fully enjoy that on the out-breath and the release. And then when you're in the dynamic effort, to continue to enjoy that and to notice if there are any changes in terms of how the breath feels in your body and how it wants to go. And I wish I could capture this. You said some really wonderful things, Maggie, about, fortunately, we've got the recording so I can find it later. Right? Not doing what you think you're supposed to be doing, but to do what you're actually doing. And can you couple the out breath with sound. And then the third phase is when you come down from the tremor, spend some time with the breath you have in that moment, enjoying the sensation of the in-breath. Wherever it is, right? Letting it be open and letting it move into your body where it wants to move. Enjoying the sensation of the out breath. But can you couple the movement of your body on the out breath with some kind of sound? Maggie was encouraging us to play with pitch. You can certainly play with pitch. You can make that choice. But for me, when I'm playing this particular version of the game, the sound that I gravitate to is the fluffy sound. That kind of partially phonated it in the Linklater world gets called the sigh of relief. There's so many things to discuss and focus on and try to work with when we're playing with sound. And you may find yourself gravitating towards something more complex. You're totally invited to do that. If you're a singer and you want to sing a little bit while you're tremoring, you can do that. If you want to sing a little bit after tremoring, you can do that. We've asked people to bring text in. If you want to bring text in, you can do that. But my strong invitation to you is, what do you feel happening in your body physically? What is the movement of breath on the inhale? And what is pleasurable about that sensation? And what is physically happening in your body on the exhale? And what is pleasurable about that sensation? And then I guess the last piece is, and when I say coupling sound with the exhale, that's deliberately wide open, but also precise in that when your body moves to send air out, that is the moment when sound happens. If you're enjoying the movements of your body when the air goes out, can you also enjoy the physical sensation of sound, whatever that may be for you? All right. So some people are working, some people are resting. So lovely. I'm going to move us. I'm going to move us into something where the invitation is for all of us to be doing the same thing at the same time. Whether or not you want to do that, right, is up to you. But what I would like to invite people to do is to come onto your back. And we're going to try all together the hammock, which we did with Maggie. And I'm going to try to remember some of the brilliant things that she said. So, hammock, you plant your feet on the floor so that your knees are pointed up towards the ceiling. You may want to go pigeon-toed a little bit. What we're trying to find and experience is release and lengthening through the back. So I like to pull my heels in a little closer to my butt. But Maggie was also very brilliantly saying, right, that maybe that's not what does that for you. Maybe what allows you to release your spine is your heels further away from your butt. And here in this position, again, letting the breath come and go. Where do you feel pleasurable movement on the in-breath? And where do you feel pleasurable movement on the out-breath? Enjoy that fully. Let your shoulder blades and collarbones, imagine your collarbones detach from the top of your sternum a little bit so that your arms fall. Let yourself experience the weight of your head through the occipital bones. Softening the jaw, softening the tongue, all of those things. And when you're ready, pressing your heels, again, this is my language, right? So I think about pressing my feet into the floor and reaching my knees out over my toes, away from my face, so that my tailbone tips up first and then my pelvis comes up off of the floor. And the invitation here is again, and I'm modeling it right now, right? So hopefully this won't interfere too much with your process, is to let some sound ride out on the breath. But what I would like to invite people to do, as that sound is coming out, to begin to move your mouth around. And also close your lips maybe, or bring your teeth into contact with one lip or the other lip, or your tongue into contact with various parts of your mouth. So that you start with this very luxurious, buzzy kind of babbling gibberish that's coming out of you. As you're tremoring. And if this is something, if this takes you out of it, if this is something that feels like that's making me feel odd or self-conscious or weird, you can practice with closing your lips around the sound. In fact, maybe we should all just do that. Probably should have started with that. Coming into the tremor, coming out of the tremor as you like. I'm still in it, but it might be too much for you. You might want to come out of it. And when you're ready, let yourself come down. And again, what feels good about the way that you breathe in? And then when you release, for when the breath comes out of you, let me say it that way. When the breath comes out of you and you're coupling it with sound, can you bring your lips together around it? So we get hum, and then at a certain point, that's going to subside, right? Your need for that kind of breath or your desire for that sound is going to subside. So I know I sort of switched horses in midstream there. I went to gibberish and then I backed up a step to It gives you a choice. You might feel like you're excited about So I'd like to do another dynamic effort on your back. You may want to repeat the hammock, or you may want to do one of the other ones on your back. So this is a moment of choice. But I'm going to, if you're looking for some guidance or some instruction, I'm going to repeat the hammock and talk people through the hammock again. So, planting your feet, your knees pointed up towards the ceiling. You may want to go pigeon-toed. You may want to experiment with the distance between your heels and your pelvis, right? If you didn't, there may be something you want to change from the last time. And you're going to, again, press, begin. Oh, whoops. I'm rushing it, right? Let your collarbones lengthen. Where are your shoulder blades? Can you let your shoulder blades fall off of your back or slide down your spine? Can you let the weight of your head fall backwards into the floor through the occipital bone? Maybe you want to turn your head left and right a little bit. Let your jaw drop. And before we start, once again, what's going on physically in your body with your breath? Where is it? Can you fully enjoy it? And then begin to press into your feet. Tilting, reaching your knees away from your face, out over your toes, tilting your tailbone up and letting your spine hammock. I really liked, Maggie, that you were using that word as a verb. You're hammocking yourself. And your belly is like, if you imagine yourself lying in a hammock, it's like your spine and your bones and your back is the actual hammock. And it's like your belly is your body. Your belly is you lying in the hammock. And when you breathe in, it's like you shift your body a little bit, almost like you're trying to get more comfortable in the hammock. And then when you breathe out, the belly drops into a more comfortable place. Let some sound go with that. And you can bring the sound back into it. And the reminder here is, right, maybe you don't want to do this. Or maybe you want to skip to something like singing or the text that you were asked to bring with you today. But if you're bringing your lips together, you could also make a little bit of a choice here. To let the pitch float up and let the pitch float down. But this is also like what Maggie was saying at the beginning today, like in your bones. Where is the sound going in your bones when the pitch goes up and the pitch goes down? And then let yourself come down, and you can continue to do the same thing. Enjoy the feeling of the in-breath. On you could also use v or z or zh. Enjoy the feeling of the in-breath. And then what's happening for me right now is if I'm trying to do or v or zh, and enjoy the feeling of the sound in my bones. What do you need to do with your breath to fully enjoy the sound? Because to make the sound happen, right, you need to have the breath exit your body. But what is the way in which you are doing that so that the sound that you are experiencing is enjoyable to you? So we're going to progress through some other things. And I see some people are, this is great, right? People are in it, people are out of it, people are working, people are tremoring, people are resting, people are sounding. It's all lovely. I'm seeing a recovery position, Wayne. It's fantastic. So I'm going to progress through some other things and invite some other things through. I think about, and this is very much related to what Yusuf said and the way he articulated it. I think about a lot of the work that we're doing here in terms of complexity. And as you gradually introduce things that are more complex, you can lose track of sensation, you can lose track of feeling grounded, you can lose track of yourself. So as I move people into things that are more complex, I'm going to try to remember to remind you, but you can always back up into something that's less complex. And I think for us, right now, the least complex thing to do is rest and digest. I think the second least complex thing to do, believe it or not, is tremoring. So if, as we're going through this, if things are starting to get into your head and you're starting to feel a little disoriented, go into a tremor for 10 seconds, 30 seconds. All right, so the next thing I'd like to ask people to do is to come over onto one side for the watch. And once you're there, let the weight of the trailing arm, the arm that's pointing in the opposite direction to your knees, and it doesn't matter which side you're on, let the weight of the arm that opens your ribs towards the ceiling help you release that shoulder towards the floor. Allow the weight of your top leg to fall into your bottom leg and soften the inner thigh and soften the pelvis. And in this position, when you breathe in, where is the movement? And just notice that being in this position, the movement is probably going to be in different places than it was when you were on your back. That's great. When you're ready, flex your foot at the ankle. And slowly, 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 so slowly, open the back of the knee. Continue to enjoy the feeling of the in-breath. And letting that happen on sound. And maybe bringing that sound to the But I would like to invite people to move on to gibberish here. But what are the sensations that are happening in your body in terms of how your body lets go when you breathe out, and how things melt and release when you breathe out, that you can take on to and I'm going to stop modeling for a second and be quiet so that you can do your own work. And then what I would like to encourage you to do is let the tremor go for a second, but stay in the position that you are in. And then go right into some gibberish. And if you can see how I have my hands resting on my body here, I have one hand on my ribs, I have the other hand on my belly, the arm that's behind me is pointing away from my knees. I folded that so it's on my ribs, and the other hand is resting on my belly. And just take a moment to feel what your body wants to do when you give yourself the instruction to make these nonsense sounds. And then when you're ready, you can switch to the other side. So once you are on the other side, that is, if you have accepted the invitation and you're trying this other side, spend a moment. Now, it looks like some people are already in it, which is great. You can go right into it. So you may want to make that choice, right? You also have the option, though, of taking a moment to find and feel where in your body is, and this is physical, right? Where is the movement happening? Where is your body open on the in-breath? Where is your body opening on the in-breath? And fully enjoy that. And then on the out-breath, Release. Those moments of release on the out breath are also the moments when you can find like, oh yes, that's when I let my leg fall into my zafu, or that's when I let my shoulder drop, or that's when I find the true weight of my head. Let that jaw go. And flex your foot at the ankle when you're ready. And find your way in to this. I'm trying to remember the things that we said a couple of weeks ago about what Catherine said about the sound being the manifestation of the inner state of your body, and also that thing that Richard Armstrong said. I think I'm mashing them up together. If Amy or Sufei remembers either one of those things, Amy may not be with us, but Sufei, if you remember what that is that Catherine said, if I invite you to unmute yourself and share that with us.
Sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
What is the
Catherine
thing
said about what?
that the sound is a manifestation of the inner state of your body?
Oh yeah, the
Something?
sound is an indication of what is happening in your
Yes.
body.
Yeah. So the sound, if there's sound that's coming out of you, it's an indication of what's happening in your body right now. And then you can bring that onto but when you bring it onto that may still is or may still be carrying some of that indication or the experience of what's happening inside of you. And then if you bring it onto gibberish, we're really close to words right now, right? So it's almost like, what if the gibberish that's happening in your body right now is almost as if it's telling the story of the experience that you're having right now? Like, like I'm trying to say, like, I'm trying to release my bottom leg and it's not really working. Oh, there it goes. So I'm going to come to silence and allow all of you to continue to work as you like. But the reminder is, right, it can be really, really illuminating to come into this and come out of it. So it might be really illuminating to just stop, let the tremor go for a second and remain in this position. And let the gibberish continue. And if you haven't done so, the invitation is again to come down from the tremor. I'm seeing some people are sitting up. Yeah, it's so great, right? Like you do what your body wants to do. But the invitation is, in whatever position you may be in, Oh gosh, Maggie, you said it so beautifully. I wish I could remember exactly what you said. But what is your breath doing in your body right now? And if you choose to engage with the gibberish or or in the position that your body is in right now, fully enjoy whatever sensation, whatever movement is happening in the in-breath. But then when you mm, do the sound, make the sound, choose to sound, because it is a choice. Making sound is a choice to take, to actually engage and actually indicate your inner state, right? To take the thing that's inside of you and move it out. When you do that, choose to do that, engage with that, find that, feel that, what does your body need to do? How does your body want to work to get the sound out? What parts of your body are doing it? How does it feel? So I'm going to invite everyone to do the same thing at the same time, one more time. And I'm going to invite people into seaweed/open book. These feel very similar to me. They both involve the prop with your pelvis. But if there is another dynamic effort that you would prefer to do right now, you can, of course, do that. So take a moment if you want to. And I actually think this is an interesting kind of transition. Sometimes taking the time, and this is what Maggie did with us so beautifully, right? Really take the time before you extend through the limbs to release and soften, find the breath, feel where you're open, feel where the movement is. You can also just flip yourself onto your back and just go into it. Or flip yourself onto your belly and go into it. But I'm going to talk you through it a little bit more slowly. So on your back, depending on where seaweed is legs straight up in the air. Open book is very similar, except your legs go out in kind of a V shape. You can start by using your hands on your knees or behind your knees to move your femurs around in the hip sockets a little bit. And let your spine be held by the floor and by the pillows. Let your shoulders release and your jaw and your tongue. And when you're ready, you can flex your feet at the ankles and extend through your legs. And let some sound happen. And you can go to gibberish. But I'd like to add another layer to this here, which is an invitation to use some words, but to actually narrate for yourself out loud the thing that is happening for you. Like, oh, there, I got a little tension in my knees. And let that go. All right. Oh, My belly is jiggling. How about that? Or I don't know what's going on. Or I'm going to try it with my eyes open. Bring some words into, or you can try Jumble-er-javazem. Or, as I've already said several times with the help of Souffle, the sound is an indication of what's happening inside your body. What if you actually used words to give a little bit of shape to the sound that is connected to the thing that is happening in your body? And when you come down from the tremor, if you're going to take a break or if you're going up or coming down, same thing. I can feel my pelvic floor. I've got a little tingle between my shoulder blades. And so the thing I'd like to say in this moment is to remind everyone that letting sound, having a tremor with breath, is at this point, I think, in our work together, isn't super complicated. Adding sound adds a layer of complexity. Adding closed lips adds another layer. Adding gibberish adds another layer. And adding these words, this narration, adds another layer of complexity. So the invitation is for the next couple of minutes to play in that realm as you like. Seeking, I think, for yourself, the thing that you're seeking is what feels good in my body. And when you start to lose track of the sense of something that feels pleasurable, maybe you need to back up into something that's a little simpler. And then you can move forward. So I'd like to finish up with one before we take a break and have some time to talk. I'd like to finish up with one final thing. And it involves pillows or a zafu or something to prop yourself with if you can. And I'm going to try to make myself as fully visible here as possible. So what I would like to invite people to do is to take your pillows or your zafu, and you're going to place them underneath the middle of your spine so that you are in, it's almost like, mermaid, except flipped over on your back. You may need, depending on, depending on your body, you may also need something to prop up under your head. And you also have a choice to make about what you want to do with your legs. So something that we were exploring today was both feet planted, both legs long, or one leg. And I cannot believe, Maggie, of the decades that I have been doing this, that literally has never occurred to me as a thing that you could do. But what I would like everyone to do is spend a moment trying to find some comfort in this position, in which your spine is going to be arched, your rib cage is going to be elevated, and the front of your abdomen is going to be lengthened a little bit. So you may find yourself in this position and think, I've got too much under my back and I need to find a way to do less. It's also possible that your body won't tolerate this at all, in which case you can do this with a flat back. But this arch through the spine gets us something. And then once you're there, finding comfort, whatever that is for you. And for me, part of that comfort is allowing the backs of my ribs and my thoracic spine in particular to be supported by the pillow or the zafu or the thing that I'm lying on. It's not just that I'm allowing myself to melt, but it's as if I imagine that the pillow is rising up underneath me a little bit to really hold me. And then I'd like everyone to, if you can, put a hand somewhere on your abdomen. And then if you can see what I'm doing with my hands here, drape your fingers, maybe they drape towards the floor, and let them rest on your ribs. And this is we're not headed into a dynamic effort here. But the other things that I was inviting you to explore specifically about, like, where does your body move and how does it move and how does it feel good when you breathe in? And how does it feel good when you breathe out? What are you feeling here? With your body moved into this particular shape. And then what I would like you to do is, the invitation here is, when the air leaves your body, to couple that with some sound. And maybe that's the fluffy sound. Notice if when you start to couple it with fluffy sound, do you brace or tighten in the back of your neck? Do you try to lift your head up off the pillow when you try to make sound? Do you brace or tighten your rib cage? And can you let the sound happen without doing those things. And then maybe we want to try or v or z or zh. Mm, v, z, zh. And my curiosity here for you, which is an indirect way of basically asking the question of when you're trying to get the sound out, z, z, zh. If you're experiencing or allowing or trying to experience the feeling of the sound in your bones and enjoy the feeling of sound, what does your body need to do to get the sound out in that way? And notice again, if when you change from to do you tighten the backs of your ribs? Are you tightening the front of your neck? Are you tightening the back of your neck? Are you lifting your head? And can you do that in your body without doing those things? Then the next stage is some gibberish. Zvolorjum vzigilerva. Hizum bolovize. Hajam vzirveta. As you're playing with gibberish, if you also want to slide your pitch up a little bit or slide your pitch down a little bit. But again, as we've moved to this next slightly more complex thing, right, are you tightening? Another thing you can do here, if you can see what I'm doing right now, I'm not tremoring, but I'm sort of pushing and pulling with my feet. I'm rocking my body over the pillow here to help myself soften a little bit. If this has gotten uncomfortable for you and you need to come off of the pillow, please do that. But when you come off of the pillow, come off sideways like this. Don't pick yourself up front ways like this. But there's a couple more things that I'd like to play with, which is right now, the next step is to actually speak some words, but maybe those words are describing the physical sensations in your body right now, whatever they are. Like, I have a little discomfort in my lumbar spine, right where it joins the sacrum on the right side. Maybe I can lengthen that. When the words come out, I'm feeling my belly button kind of go towards the floor. That's kind of cool. And when I breathe in, I'm feeling a little bit of movement actually where my ribs join my spine. I'm also being a little anatomical. I'm a bit of a geek for that stuff. So the way that you describe your own experience is personal and unique to you. And then the last thing I'd like to do is, we asked everybody to bring some text today. What happens if you try to speak some words? Not the words that you're speaking out of your own experience, but words that have been written by somebody else. With all of these feel-good feelings and all of these things that you're trying to track about what's going on in your body and how it feels and how can I get the sound to feel good and what is the connection between how is my sound indicating the experience that I'm having? When you speak words written by somebody else, how much of that can you bring forward with you into those other words? What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me. And again, as soon as you switch into speaking those words, are there parts of your body that you are grabbing, tightening, and can you release them instead? As part of speaking those words, and then moving your body the way that it needs to move or wants to move to get the words out. All right, and then when you're ready, you may want to stay with this for a while. But when you're ready, slowly, 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 slowly roll off of the pillows to the side if you haven't done that already. And when I say slowly, the reason for that is if you really released into that shape, there's going to be some stuff happening in your body. And you can be on the floor in your side, or you can curl into the fetal position so that you give yourself the negative shape, the opposite shape for your spine. You can go into child's pose. You know, it occurs to me that people may want to continue speaking your text here in this position, just to see what it feels like in your body. Or you may want to continue to narrate your own experience in this position. Or make sound. But you can also go right into rest and digest. All right, so I'm seeing some people are coming back to themselves. So let's see, where is Lisa? Lisa, I think again I'd
Here. Yep.
like to move into breakout rooms to talk about this a little bit. So so we don't really have enough time to do another thing today. So I think we can take the remainder of our time to talk in the larger group. If there were any conversations that got cut off that anybody wants to introduce into the larger group or discuss that way, that would be great. Dare, we got cut off. I don't know if you want to bring that conversation into the larger group or if you would prefer to talk about that in another breakout room or some other time.
I think I can be brief and not have to go into extreme detail, but we were talking about sort of like, almost like the voice needs to redevelop or go through developmental stages again. And the gibberish is like what a baby does when they're just like exploring their voice. And the sort of the trauma pattern that is present in our society for many of us is that being heard might not be safe for a number of reasons. So it's not just like you're a free baby kind of gurgling, it's that you're actually in danger because of your gender, because of your race or anything like that, right? Because of where you live and how you live and all that stuff. So I love the gibberish work, and I also recognize that I have to take a very long time to build up to something that would be considered loud or speech. If I'm really going to do it right, like if I'm really going to let myself have all these loop-de-loos of like ebbing and flowing, rising and falling, expansion and contraction, if I really let the voice and the breath do that, it's going to be like almost like an hour by myself, no interruptions. Because part of the developmental stage is constantly being interrupted by my memories, by other people's voices. And it's not like it's a problem, right? I'm not freaking out here. I'm just saying that like the reality for my nervous system is to really do the work requires a kind of container that really allows for the kind of like 1 step forward, 20 steps to the left. Oh, now I got to take a nap. Now I have to be right. Like there's a real, like, we don't really know what the baby wants. And the baby has to have the space to sort of have its moment or not, or whatever. And I think that the promise of this work is to be able to get to the place where maybe we have dealt with enough of that backlog that when we get on stage or whatever, there isn't the need for that hour-long preparation time or whatever it is, 10 minutes, 15. But I'm just sort of holding space for myself for the reality that I cannot rush or force this process, because rushing or forcing this process creates the very same problems that I'm seeking to sort of heal, or whatever you want to call it. Like all these words are loaded, right? So, I just want to, hold that sort of nebulous space in which there's no need to perform in the discovery process, right? Unless, of course, that is part of the discovery process, right? Like there's a kind of quality here.
Yeah, I love that, Darren. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I think that, we have, it's a challenging balance for us to find, especially in a group setting like this, right? And so we're constantly inviting people to work in your own way and work at your own pace. I think one of the surprising advantages of doing this over Zoom and sending people home with recordings is that if you want to, you can revisit the work and work with the recording and stop it and rewind it and start it and actually go through that process and find your own pace and find your own way. I do also think, though, like as you're saying, like I can't remember exactly how you articulated it, but you were saying like to not perform the process. I think that that's crucial, right? But I think that there is something in this work, probably because of where it started, right? It started as actor training work, that we are headed in a direction, right? We are headed in a direction of being able to express yourself and being able to express yourself relative to someone else, whether that's just one individual person or whether that's in a performative context. And I think one of the interesting things was because I was inviting a lot of sound. I was inviting a lot of complexity, right? More, I think, than we've done. I mean, that was sort of our plan for today, was to try to lean into this a little bit more. And Maggie got us started, and I tried to take us a little bit further. I think you're right, Dare, that like that finding your way from gibberish until, and Tuli was talking about this in our group too, that she found that like the gibberish was doing really amazing things for her, but then when she switched into language, a bunch of stuff kind of shut down or went away, right? So moving over that transition is not an easy thing. And I think in a lot of actor training, people just skip it. They say, like, just do it, just talk. Now it's time to talk. I guess as we're moving forward through the next couple of sessions, I think what Dare was talking about is crucial to keep in mind. But it's also, we also want to consider that, yeah, I don't necessarily know that never mind. I'm backing off of what I said. I was about to say, like, we are going somewhere. But I guess the real thing to say is, like, you get to where you get to, is it? Yeah. And Sufei had something and Lisa had something.
I think it's important. I mean, everything Dare says is true, and it's so beautifully put. Like it's in some ways the entry into language is treacherous because we encounter suddenly the separation of you from your mother, and then you get into all these power relationships, and suddenly, you know, oppression comes. The possibility of oppression is ever present. But at the same time, you don't have to be perfect to speak up. And in fact, in a crisis, you also need to speak. And so there's something here about navigating that territory that allows us to speak up even when we feel distress.
Yeah. Lisa.
And something about not
sorry.
having to be, and there's something important there about we don't need to be, we can speak even when we think we're not that ready.
I'll add to that. We get to fail. We get to make mistakes and I'll say it, and fuck up. So I just want to add that, of course, we keep inviting you to your own autonomy and your own pace, and what is you choose to decide is comfortable or challenging to you. However, I want to add, even though Jeff didn't, in the next 2 sessions, we're going to be a little more challenging. So if you feel that might be too much for you, make sure that you take the time to take care of yourself before the session starts in the next 2 weeks. That's what I would like to invite you to do. And if you need to cuddle in a ball and just do gibberish, or if any of the tremors feel inviting to you even before the session starts, that's what I'd like to invite you to do.
Love that, Lisa. We've got about a little less than 5 minutes left. Anything else? Any other desires that need to be spoken or questions that need to be asked? I have the desire to say that, like, I feel like, well, our group has gotten smaller. Some people have left and some people aren't with us today. So I'm not sure if it's that, but like, I am really enjoying being with all of you today. I feel like we're sort of getting in it. We're sort of, we're really finding our way kind of deeper into this material, I think. It's hard to tell if that's actually really happening, because we're not in the room together in real life, but yeah, so it feels like it's happening, and I'm enjoying that.
I can report that in the breakout room that I was in, there was a kind of what I call a belly space stuff. Everyone's in the feeling, like something's happening. I don't know. I don't have words for it, but.
And I guess I know I was asking people for questions, and now I'm taking up all the time, but and similarly to what Lisa was saying, and similarly to what I was trying to say at the beginning of our session, right? Like, this kind of mindset that people are in, the sort of mode, is something to remember as we move forward into the next couple of sessions, in which we are going to be working a little bit more with structure, intention, directly relating with other people a little bit more, working a little bit more explicitly with text, working a little bit more explicitly with whatever it is that is happening in you, sharing that, sharing that out. So this is.
And actually, that just made me think of something that I just want to tag, is that I think that part of it is key to getting the wholeness of the whole thing. So before feeling like maybe it's overwhelming, or maybe that's also why I like to open my eyes sometimes. It's like sometimes just bringing in that outer stuff, that you're switching attention, is sort of the key to that whole, that everything that Dara was saying, and which was so beautifully said as well. I wanted to echo that.
Thank you, Maggie. Okay. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for your generosity in these explorations today and in the conversations. And really looking forward to seeing everybody next week.